Dr. Marcus Wilson stepped into the paddock with his medical kit slung over his shoulder. The morning air was cool, carrying the faint sour scent of silage, but his eyes were drawn immediately to the Holstein cow standing apart from the herd. She wasn't grazing, she wasn't even moving properly. Instead, she shifted her weight awkwardly, her left hind leg trembling as if every step was agony. That's when Marcus saw it. A massive, grotesque lump bulged from her hip, swollen purple and stretched tight against the hide. It was nearly the size of a basketball, throbbing as the animal strained to keep her balance. The farmer at his side forced a nervous laugh. "It just came up overnight," he muttered, voice thin, eyes darting toward the barn. Marcus crouched, gently pulling back the cow's fur to inspect the swelling. What he saw made his stomach lurch, rows of tiny puncture scars surrounding the mass and unnatural ridges beneath the skin that no accident could have caused. His face went pale. He didn't hesitate. He straightened sharply, voice firm. "Call the police." Now, what could make a vet summon the cops immediately after just one look at a cow's hip? Marcus pressed his palm gently against the swollen mass. The skin was stretched taut, mottled in shades of purple and black, and radiated an unnatural heat. The cow let out a low, guttural groan, shifting her weight as if begging him to stop. This wasn't a normal abscess. This was something far worse. Behind him, the farmer shifted uneasily. "Doc, you don't need to make such a fuss," he muttered. "Just drain it and leave." "She'll be fine." Marcus froze at the words. Drain it and leave? No farmer who truly cared about his animals would dismiss a growth like this. He looked up, studying the man's face. His jaw was clenched, his brow damp with sweat despite the cool air. Something wasn't right. Marcus leaned closer, tracing the swollen flesh with his eyes. That's when he noticed them. Faint, repeating tracks running from the lump down the cow's flank. Thin, precise marks. They weren't from an accident, and they definitely weren't from barbed wire. They were deliberate. The farmer forced a chuckle, but it sounded hollow. "These animals are clumsy." She probably caught herself on the fence. Marcus didn't answer. His instincts screamed louder with every passing second. This wasn't a freak injury. It wasn't random. But if it wasn't an accident, then what exactly had this cow been injected with? And why was the farmer so desperate for him not to look any closer? Marcus didn't want to tip his hand too quickly. He let the farmer walk a few paces ahead, then casually veered toward another Holstein standing near the fence line. To the untrained eye, she looked healthy. But when Marcus ran his fingers along her flank, he felt it. A firm swelling, smaller than the grotesque mass he had just examined, but in the exact same spot on her hip. The same heat, the same faint groan of pain when pressed. His stomach tightened. This wasn't a single case. It was spreading through the herd. He bent closer, sniffing the cow's hide. A sharp, acrid tang stung his nose, chemical and bitter. Not the earthy musk of livestock, not the clean sting of iodine disinfectant. Something else entirely. Marcus pulled back, blinking hard. Whatever lingered on this cow's skin didn't belong here. He glanced toward the barn. Something told him the answers were inside. When he stepped through the doorway, the air changed. Dark, musty, thick with ammonia. Marcus's boots crunched straw, and there, half hidden beneath it, was the glint of a metal cylinder. He knelt, brushing hay aside, and his blood ran cold. A syringe. Long needle still capped, barrel sticky with residue. Whoever had used it hadn't even bothered to dispose of it properly. Marcus set it carefully on a shelf and kept moving, his pulse pounding. A wooden ledger sat open on a feed barrel, pages curling at the edges from years of use. He flipped through, expecting breeding notes or feed records. Instead, in scrawled handwriting, were repeated entries. Milk booster injections, 3cc hip. Again and again, the date stretched back months. Behind him, his young assistant cleared her throat nervously. When Marcus turned, she stepped closer, voice hushed. "Doc, I've been here before. For weeks, some of these cows have been limping. Neighbors said the farmer kept brushing it off. He never let anyone look at them." The words struck like ice. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't coincidence. Marcus straightened slowly, the pieces falling together. Multiple cows, same site, chemical traces, discarded syringes, handwritten notes. This wasn't an illness. It was a regimen, a cruel, systematic abuse. From the doorway, the farmer's voice cut through the silence, hard and defensive. "You're overstepping, Doc." "This is my farm, my cows. I said just drain it and leave." His face was flushed now, his voice trembling with something between anger and fear. Marcus held his gaze, feeling the weight of the truth pressing in. The more he uncovered, the more dangerous this became. The farmer wasn't just hiding a medical problem, he was hiding a crime. The suspense thickened like the air in the barn. If Marcus kept digging, would he leave this farm with the truth, or not leave at all? The farmer's boots thudded heavily on the packed earth as he stepped into Marcus's path. His broad shoulders filled the doorway, cutting off the light from outside. "You've seen enough, Doc," he growled, voice low but tight. "Pack up your kit and go. I'll handle this from here." Marcus didn't move. He straightened slowly, the barn ledger still clutched in one hand, the discarded syringe glinting on the shelf beside him. "Not until I know why your cows are covered in injection scars," he said evenly. His words cut through the stale air like a blade. The farmer's jaw clenched. "You don't get it." "Everyone does it." He slammed a fist against the wall, dust raining down. "You wouldn't understand." Marcus held his ground, though his pulse was hammering. "Everyone doesn't cripple their herd for profit, not like this. Not with chemicals that eat them alive from the inside." The farmer's eyes flickered with panic, then hardened into rage. He took a step closer, his frame looming over Marcus. "You'll keep your mouth shut if you know what's good for you." Behind Marcus, his assistant shifted nervously, eyes darting to the phone hidden in her palm. Marcus gave the faintest nod. The silent signal was enough. "Call them. Call the police. Stall him until they arrive." The farmer noticed the glance, his suspicion snapping sharp. "What are you two up to?" he barked. His voice echoed in the rafters, sending the cows shifting uneasily in their stalls. "This is my land." "My animals? You've got no right." Marcus swallowed hard, keeping his tone firm. "I have every right when I see cruelty this blatant. These animals are suffering because of you." The farmer stepped even closer now, fists balled, the sour stink of sweat rolling off him. For a heartbeat, Marcus thought he might actually swing. The tension snapped taut, like a wire ready to break. Then, from outside, came the crunch of gravel beneath tires. A flash of red and blue lights swept across the barn walls. The sound of car doors slamming cut through the farmer's anger. "Police! Step aside!" The farmer froze, color draining from his face. Two uniformed officers rushed in, hands on their belts, their presence filling the barn with authority. Marcus exhaled shakily and took a step back, relief flooding through him. His hands trembled as he set the ledger down on the barrel. He had held his ground. He had done his job. The farmer, however, was not done. "You don't understand," he shouted as the officers cuffed his wrists. "I had no choice. This is how it's done." His voice cracked as they dragged him toward the door, but his protest dissolved into the sound of the cow's low, pained moan. Marcus stood rooted in place, chest heaving, the reality settling in. He had looked into the eyes of cruelty and refused to back down. The barn, once dim and quiet, erupted into a flurry of movement. Flashlights swept across beams and stalls as police and animal inspectors spread out, searching every corner. Within minutes, one officer pried open a wooden crate tucked beneath a pile of feed sacks. The lid groaned, then split, revealing rows of glass vials packed in straw. The labels were faded, but the words were unmistakable. Hormone compounds, restricted use only. Another officer held up a plastic tub bristling with used syringes, some still streaked with residue. The sight made Marcus's stomach twist. These weren't tools of care, they were weapons of slow destruction. An inspector crouched beside one of the tethered cows, pressing a stethoscope to its side. She frowned, then ran a hand along its belly, her voice grave. Tumors, internal bleeding, organ stress? It's everywhere. These animals have been pumped far past their limits. She stood and faced Marcus, her expression pale but steady. These hormones are banned for a reason. They don't just cause suffering, they taint the milk, the meat. Everything that leaves this farm is a health risk. Marcus turned toward the Holstein with the massive hip lump. His throat tightened as he understood. That grotesque swelling wasn't an infection. It wasn't an accident. It was a tumor-like growth, fed by months of repeated injections, a living monument to cruelty. Outside, the farmer's shouts carried through the barn door as officers dragged him away in cuffs. "You don't get it. I had to. Everyone's doing it." His protests fell flat against the evidence stacked around him. Marcus stood in the center of the barn, frozen in a wash of disbelief and sorrow. This wasn't medicine gone wrong. It wasn't desperation. It was systematic, deliberate abuse, carried out in secret, hidden behind the trust of a community. And now the truth stood exposed, ugly and undeniable. The hours that followed were filled with urgency. Marcus and his assistant moved stall to stall, administering fluids, easing pain, and starting detox treatments where they could. Some of the cows responded quickly, their weary eyes softening with relief. Others lay still, their bodies too damaged from months of abuse to ever fully heal. Marcus knew the truth. Not all of them would make it. News of the arrest spread through the town like wildfire. Neighbors gathered at the edge of the property, whispers turning to gasps as details emerged. Families were horrified to learn the milk they had poured into their children's glasses came from this very herd. Anger, grief, and betrayal rippled through the community. The local paper splashed Marcus's photo across its front page, calling him a hero. He accepted none of it. Standing in the barn that night, exhaustion etched across his face, he murmured softly, "I only did what any vet should do. I just wish I'd been called sooner." He knelt beside the first cow he had examined, her flank still swollen and sore. Stroking her muzzle gently, Marcus whispered, "You didn't suffer for nothing. You told us the truth." As he walked out into the quiet evening, a heavy realization settled over him. Sometimes the worst betrayals don't come from predators lurking in the dark, but from the very hands trusted to provide care. Would you have believed the farmer's excuse, or trusted your instincts like Marcus did?